Today, this bootcamp is on automotive sketching. So, guys, any idea what is sketching? You can type it in the chat box if you want. Sketching. So, it's a very dynamic field, a creative field, and very, new field for mechanical engineers, right? Even though you are doing engineering, drawing, all these things, correct? Exactly, Shravan. So, pictorial representation of an idea, creative visualization. Yeah. Great. Good. Putting your designs on the paper, no matter how basic or rudimentary, drawing something with all its component marked, right? Yeah. So all of these are basically your ideas, right? So whatever idea that you have in your mind. So if you generate those ideas, right? The ideas will be something called as a concept. So all of these concepts, what you do is you represent in a three-dimension manner in your mind. But the problem is, so whatever you explain verbally, right? Whatever is on your mind, so you'll not be able to, tell it to someone. So then comes the part of sketching, right? Or drawing basically. So in drawing too, you have two things, right? One is your engineering drawing, right? And the second one is your creative drawing. So this automotive sketching comes in this creative domain where, so whatever you are doing, right? So it is not bound by some certain rules, right? Or some certain engineering factors. So whatever you are doing, right, it's completely creative and you're not bound by any rules. So whatever you have in your mind, so everything can be expressed. So that is basically automotive sketching in my words, right? And automotive sketching. So basically how to draw an automobile, correct? So automotive sketching, anyway, I said there are no rules, but there will be some rules. The rules is just to make your car or an automobile look much more neater, nicer, right? So that is the intention why we use sketching. Now, so coming to the topic of, I think Mehul said that, yeah, it's mechanical domain, right? So it's a creative domain. So you won't have any degree or any background to do this one. But whenever you are a mechanical engineer, you have that idea. Okay, so how to, okay, make sure that you are creating that. So what is hood, what is roof, how to take the line. So in the mechanical engineering field, right, in our college life, what we do is we study engineering drawing. There we get an idea what is line, what is arc, what is curves. So according to that, what we are doing is we are creating a sketch. So because of that, so and whenever you are going into automobile field, so everybody prefers a mechanical engineer, right? Because he can work in the creative domain as well as the engineering domain. So that is why, so this course is very, very much preferred for the mechanical engineers. And if you're an enthusiast or a creator, then you can definitely take up this course and you can continue with the domain. And the second thing, guys, so this will be kind of a hands-on workshop or experience for you. So if you have a pen and paper, please make sure that you're doing them, because in the last, what we do is, so we'll try to sketch or practice a little bit on a pen and paper. So make sure that you're getting your pens and papers or books or markers, crayons, whatever you have right now, so that in the end, we can do a hands-on experience and you can put it in your LinkedIn profile so that, it looks much more nicer. So moving forward, so outline. So what is the outline of this presentation that we are doing, right? So basic introduction to design. So what are the history of automobiles? So you have a lot of background, right? Automobiles are not developed or what I can say invented in one single day. It's a continuous progress. So we have to learn the automobile history so that we can understand, okay, what is the development and how are we growing in the domain itself. Sketching basics, right? You have some basics for the sketching, and in those things you have speed forms, elements of design, introduction to car design, concept design, and design process. So introduction to design, right? Whenever we have something called as a design, right? So design is a set of, what I can say, instructions, right, to create something. So even though you have a lot of idea in your mind, right? You have various ideas which might not be, sometimes you'll not be able to create that thing in your sketch, right? Where this sketching that you have, right, some rules, so which will give you an idea, okay, this is how I can represent my idea into a pen or paper. Got it? So by using some set of plans or rule or specifications or points that we have, and whatever design that we are talking, so this is not your regular design or engineering design. So this design mostly deals with the look of an object, right? Either you have a bottle, you have a pen holder, you have a car, you have a laptop, you have a phone, so whatever you have, right? Any object which can be manufactured, which can be touched, or which can be looked into, so all of these things are developed by this concept design. So basically we call them as styling. Got it? And so whatever field that we are talking now, right, so this is a completely creative field. So this field is not bound by any engineering rules or regulations or set of what I can say specifications that you have for creating an object. For sketching an object, yes, definitely, because you can't create a line randomly or a shape randomly, right? So the proportions should match there. But if you want to create an object, so however you want, you can create it. And next, whenever you develop a car, right, so in the previous time, so how the car looked? So the cars were boxy and they didn't had too much of curves. They were looking very basic, right? So in the next slides, we'll look into that basics of the car, right? History, where the cars were not looking that good. But now, whenever you want to go to a market, right, a car market, you look into the looks of the car too. So as we are all engineers, right? So we know, okay, we go to a car and we look into performance, we look into specifications, we look into mileage, we look into efficiency, we look into the strength of the car, right? Protection that is offered by the car, all these things. But if a normal person who doesn't have these much of engineering background, if he goes and if he wants to buy a car, the first thing that he looks for the style of the car, right? So how the car looks. If the car looks very good, right, then we can say that, okay, the development that is gone into the car is very high. So that car has a quality. So if an object which looks much more neater, then we can say that, yeah, that object has very good quality, right? So that is where this design comes into picture. Now, so in design, we have something called as an industrial design, where, so if we are creating any parts which are manufactured, right, you cannot create a random shape like that, right? So if you want to create, for example, a box, sorry, what I can say, a bottle, by the way. So if you want to create a bottle, you have some certain sets of things, right? So only using those things, what you need to do is you need to create a bottle, something like that. And you have certain shapes which are geometrical. By using only those shapes, what you need to do is you need to create your objects, right? So if you want to create a bottle, what are the shapes that you use? So basically use a cylinder, or so mostly cylinders. And for your caps and all these things, you might use some square. If you have a very nice design, you can use some square. If you have a bottle which is looking square, what you can do is you can create a bottle which is square, but still, because it has to be manufactured, what we do is we'll give something called as a fillet. So when we give fillet, what happens is the bottle becomes a little bit rounded, right? So like that, what we do is, let me show it in the representation for you. Okay, I don't think we have a representation anyway, so we'll look into those things later. Okay, so industrial design, where will it be used that much, right? So whenever, the first example is vehicles, right? The vehicles should look very neat, very good. So in their cases, the industrial design comes into picture, and the development of vehicle will take in this way. So first you do the sketch, and then you build a class A surfacing model of it by using some software tools like Alias, ICM Surface, or sometimes CATIA 2. And then what you do is you take the surface as a reference, you create an actual geometrical model, so that we call as a clay model, right? That is a what I can say, a tangible model. You can touch it, you can feel it, and you can correct most of the things there. And next, what you do is you take an engineering reference from those things and you create all the engineering parts later. So that comes in the engineering. And home appliances. So I think one image that we have in the side, right? So that is a hair dryer, right? Or a blower, whatever you can assume. So all these things. So there are some set of constraint, some set of design specification that you need to use to design this particular part. Got it? Home, basically all the home appliances that you have. So those will have industrial design. Next comes toys, right? Whatever toys that you have, even the fidget spinners that you used to use, right? So I think 1 or 2 years ago, it was a very big trend. So trend comes into picture later. And whatever toys that you use, right? Now we have a lot of modern toys. So in those cases, how to manufacture those toys, how to design so that the toys will be easily manufactured. So all these things comes into industrial design. So next is your furniture. So whatever furniture that you have, so think it should look good, right? So all these example that I have, vehicle, home appliances, toys, furniture. So all these things, one common point is they should look good. So whatever you're doing, they should look good. So that is why we do this industrial design, right? Next comes the part of aesthetic. So aesthetic is nothing but it should look good. That's it. So that is the intention. And then comes ergonomics. That as a designer, we don't need to worry about. But ergonomics is something that an industrial designer might have to consider. So ergonomics is nothing but how the object feels in your hand, right? So you design it very good, very neatly. It has a lot of sharp edges, cutting corners. So you have all those things. But in the end, what's happening is that is not feeling good in my hand, right? So whatever phone that you have, if your phone have a very sharp edge, you might not be able to use that phone continuously. So as an engineer, you have to combine this industrial design into your engineering part, and you have to make sure that part is workable. You can hold that part, you can manipulate that part, so you can have that part in your hand. So like that, you have to design your part. So that is why, so for an engineer, see, in the older times, as an engineer, you didn't need to worry about the looks of the car, right? So the cars will look, I mean, the cars will look good, but they're built for purpose majorly. So the car should drive properly, the car should take you from point A to point B. But now the scenario is different. So whatever supercars that you have, right? So Ferrari, Lamborghini, the first intention of those things, the car should look good. And after that comes the power. Anyway, power will be more. But the main intention of them is to make sure that the car looks very good, right? Yeah, and the last point that you have here, right? Industrial design works around the regular daily uses of the client and then try to incorporate style and functionality to the object. Now this functionality term comes into picture. It should function properly. So I have created this hair dryer very nicely, very neatly. So it has all the special features. It looks good. It is very comfortable to hold in your hand. But the problem is the functionality is not there. It's not pushing enough heat, or it's not pushing enough air. Then your product won't sell that much, right? The product is waste. Then how do you make sure that your part is functional? There comes your engineering. There comes your engineering mind. How to make sure that this part is very well made. And moving forward, so automotive design, right? So now this is a very huge topic going on right now, right? Whatever companies that we have, so all the EV companies, all the modern companies. So for them, the important thing now is the looks, because whatever performance that they have, so is regulated in BS6, BS4, or any regulations that are coming, and some of the cars are going to electric powertrain. But the one field which doesn't die whenever you are developing a car, or whenever you are developing an automobile, is the body of it and the look of it. So when you develop a body, the important thing you have to consider or take care is the look of the car, right? Your car is very brilliant, it works very fine, it has a very good mileage. The problem is the car doesn't look that good. So it will sell better, but the problem is because of that, many people will not try to buy it, or they'll hesitate to buy it. So you need to make sure that whatever car or whatever automobile that you have, I'm not just talking about car, right? Even bike, even auto rickshaw that you have, right? So all those things have to be designed properly so that they look good, right? They have this visual appeal in their mind. Got it? So automotive design may be an inventive method to outline the physical look of a motor car, right? Cars, truck, motorcycles, buses, aeroplanes. So you name it, you name a vehicle that's there, right? And here we are not just talking about the exterior, right? We are also talking about the interior, how a car looks from the inside too. So whatever you can see, that comes in automotive sketching or the design. Okay. So it's basically a visual course, right? So next, the challenge of automotive design seen previously, right? I think all of you are engineers. So what you have in your mind is basically engineering. Okay, how to make something work. So previously, so what happened was automotive design was not entirely in mechanical domain. It was in a very creative domain, right? So something you have graphic design, all these things, right? UI, UX. So like that, automotive domain was separated from its mother branch. But when these topics of aerodynamics, aesthetics, ergonomics, all these came into picture, right? So then what happened was, so engineers came into picture, where if you have an um, aerodynamic principle in hand, right? Your car should look good as well as it should perform very well in the case of your aerodynamics, right? Aesthetics, how good the car looks without ruining its curves, right? How to make sure that the car is manufacturable. So then it comes in picture, right? So that is why industrial designs are there. And ergonomics. So how to make sure that this car feels good. So if you sit inside of a car on a seat which is very well designed, but it doesn't feel well, then you might not be able to sit inside of the car. You'll replace the seats, right? And replacing the seat might um, throw up some factors of the car. It might not make the car behave good, right? A lot of variables are there, a lot of factors are there. So in these cases, an engineer is very, very important to look into the car. And he's the one who is responsible to make sure that the car is looking good as well as it's feeling good. Got it? And then it comes regulations. You have Indian NCAP regulations, you have European regulations, you have American regulation, you have Japanese regulations. So all these standards. So these standards are not understood by a designer. It has to be done by an engineer. So if you have an engineering mind as well as the creative mind, then this is one of the best fields for you. And it gives you a lot of pleasure on working on something which is very, very creative. Right. So now coming into the topic clearly. So automotive designers, right? So we call them stylist because they work on the style of the car. Got it? So whatever you are learning now, so this is some specialized thing, right? It's not just how to sketch, right? There are a lot of things if you want to just learn how to sketch. But here, if you want to sketch a car or a model which can be produced, then what are the things that are there, right? So you need to have the technical knowledge, right? Of what are the things, mechanics, right? How the car moves, how motion is taken inside of car, production. Okay, how this part is manufactured. Then how should I create this part with manufacturing in my mind, right? And production in the sense you have material. Okay, what are the materials that I'm using in my car? So in the older time you had iron and steel. In the middle ages you got fiberglass. But now in the modern era you have aluminum panels as well as carbon fiber. So a lot of advancement happened in the material, and these advancement in the material will have their own constraint in the case of your production and the mechanics. Then how will you make sure that you are putting your talent or your artistic or creative mind into picture, and you need to make sure that you are designing a car in such a way that it looks very good. Got it? Next, you have the style, appearance, ergonomics, and aerodynamics, right? As an engineer, you have the knowledge of fluid mechanics. You know how a fluid moves or behave. Air is also fluid. So how do you make sure that your car is very futuristic or it's very sharp so that it cuts through the air? When you want speed, your car should make sure that it moves within the air that whatever you have, right? So whenever you have a car which is designed very well with respect to aerodynamics too, then you can improve lot of other factors of your car too, right? Design makes or breaks your car. If you have a very good design, automatically maybe your fuel efficiency of the car will increase, or the power that is your car giving to your wheel at some top speed or something, that will also improve. But your design is very bad, it's like a brick, it's like a solid stone brick, then what happens is car will your design will reduce the performance of this particular car. So when the reduced performance, your mileage is very low, so thereby what you're making is you're making the technical specifications very very less. So that's why an engineer comes into a picture and he works on the design rather than a normal artist or a sketcher. So next, so we studied about, okay, what is sketching, so what is industrial design, what is all these things. Now, so how the evolution happened. See, if you want to understand something properly, clearly, you have to start from the basics. You have to start from the beginning. If you want to know about humans, you're learning about monkeys or fishes maybe, and how they evolved throughout a lot of era, so that they have this, artistic mind or a creative mind, and how did they exist into this modern era, right? Like that. So if you want to understand, okay, what is the design of an automobile, then it's very very important to understand, okay, how the automobiles developed. So in automobile development, we have very important things, and the types are, you have veteran era, so which was the first era where the cars were developed. Edwardian era, or the brass era, where the cars were very predominantly in England, so that is why Edwardian in the name, and or in Europe basically, right? Vintage era, where, so when you see the images, you will get to know very exactly. Pre-war era, so before World War. So post-war era, after World War, and now we are in the modern era. So now, so looking into the history of the car, so whatever you can see in the veteran era, right? So that is a Daimler. So Daimler or Mercedes Benz that you have, right? Those company invented cars. So it is kind of a trivia or a quiz question for you, right? So answer is also given. So Daimler, so the owner of the Daimler or the founder of the Daimler, Carl Benz, he invented your petrol engine for an automobile, right? He invented car actually. So these were the styling of the car. So in this case, the car is just functional. It's just a bare metal or the bare bone structure where you have an engine, you have a transmission, and you have wheels. That's it. Nothing else. Right? There is no styling. So then comes the Edwardian era, right? So in the Edwardian era, so the Ford Model T that you can see here, right, from the USA. So this is still functional, but what it does is it incorporates a little bit of styling element or covering, right, outside of the car. It also looks into some part of outside of the car, even though it's not that stylish or great. So next, we'll go to the vintage era, in the era of 1922 or something, right? Where, so there was actual development of cars. There was development of your transmissions. There was development of your IC engines, and there was development of your control systems, the steering, the brakes, and all these stuff. And there was a lot of racing which got involved. So when there is the inclusion of racing, then so they are thinking technically now, okay, we have to cover something, so we have to make sure that my car goes faster. So just by putting more power or high displacement engine, it won't make my car go faster too much. Then I need to make sure that my car is very smooth, it looks smooth, it performs smooth. Then what engineers did was they designed the cars by themselves, right? Now this industrial design came into picture. What they did was they designed the car by themselves. But the problem is then it came World War One, right? So this stagnated. So the car you are seeing is Lancia Lambda. So it's pronounce that Lancia. So it was a car by Italian company. So next we have the pre-war era. So in the pre-war era, what happened was just before World War II, you had a lot of development in the company. You had Mercedes-Benz, you had Volkswagen, you have Ford, so you had Chevrolet, so all these companies. But one of the major one was Volkswagen Beetle, which was more curvier. So it had some styling influence. Uh, it was the first car to have a very small rear wheel drive setup. So there, what they did was they integrated this functionality of keeping an engine in the back to make sure that the handling is very well, as well as to looks. Okay, my engine is very small and the car is already very small, but how should I make sure that this car looks good and moves good too? So then they styled the car in such an aerodynamic way that it also looks good and it feels good. So then an actual development of your sketching started. So next, post-war era. So after World War, so then there was a very huge increment in car companies, and they wanted to make sure. So we call them coach builders, COACH, coach builders. What they did was they took all these old cars and they give a new body so that they look good, right? So whatever company that you have right now, right? Bentley, Ferrari, so all those companies, what they did was they were basically coach builders, right? What they did was they had their set of body or the chassis, and in by beating in hand, by sketching, by creating the idea, and by beating the metal with hand, what they did was they created beautiful bodies. We have one of the best example is Jaguar. So their E types, F types, all these old cars, right? So Jaguar 250 and Jaguar E type. So one of the beautiful car that we have, Aston Martin. So all those cars were developed in post-war era. So they were the forefathers or history of your automobile design. So now in the modern era, so one of the cars which stood still to the test of time is Volkswagen Golf. So whenever you're a mechanical engineer, right, and someone asks you, okay, I want to buy a car, then I think the first answer that you'll get, I think, yeah, Manas. Yes, Bugatti also made their classic in post-war. Exactly. The Atlantic Type 57. So which was their first car that they made. So post-war era. I'm not going in too deep into this concept, so I'm just barely touching the surface. But you people need to make sure that you're doing some good research on it and you're understanding it. So I have included VW Golf in this one because that is the car. See, whenever you're a mechanical engineer and someone says, okay, which car you might get. So I think first thought that we have in our mind is VW Golf, because one thing is from Germany, and second thing is technically very good. The power, the efficiency, whatever that we have, we care about speed only. So it's very good. And second is the design. So VW Golf from the very past time, it has this um, vintage design that we like, right? And it didn't change. So it looks cool till now, right? And apart from these things, we have Porsches. So PORSCHE, Porsche, or whatever, however you call it. So even Porsche started as a Beetle. So it is basically a Beetle with a bigger engine, right? And now Porsche is one of the classic cars that we have, and Rolls-Royce, Bugatti. So whatever car that you have, right, from these eras, so which were very what I can say, aesthetically pleasing, right? They look good till now, right? I think if you take Aston Martin DB5, so which is still now one of the best looking car. I think James Bond, Aston Martin DB5. I think all of you know, right? So now, so whatever era that we have, right? So the modern era. So even modern era, we have this high tech era that I like to call it, right? Or the electric vehicle era. So now the design is much more better. See, because in those times you had constraints with respect to your engine placement or your technicality, you had boxy cars even till now. So whatever cars we have, right? So they are constrained to something because we have a conventional drivetrain, we have an engine, we have a powertrain. So at some point, what happens is So if you develop a car too big, it will become too big. So people won't like it. It is not aesthetically pleasing. If you can't make too small, because the company and the regulations that you have from the government, it might not satisfy those regulations. So you might not, make a small car which is very small. But so now this, because of this EV revolution that we are having, right? As an engineer, as a design engineer, or as a industrial designer, what you have is you have all the flexibility, because this electric engines, what they're doing is they're removing the space, right? So they are very small, very light. So the packaging is very good. So what you have is you have more space. So thereby, more clearances that you can give, more, you know, huge ideas, more creativity. So basically, I think I saw one design where it's an electric car and which has room inside of it, right? So all the four people can sit together, face one another, and they can have a meeting. Then along with these things, the modern trend, right? Now trend comes into picture. So previously the trend was to go fast, right? The speed was a trend. Now, so we look into comfort. So when we look into comfort, what happens is we have to have a lot of luxury inside the car, lot of new modern technologies, and the car looks good uh, in those cases. And the space, obviously space, right? So you have to have a very huge space in your car. So what happens is whenever you have these modern technologies, right? AI, right? Artificial intelligence, and driver assist systems. So what it does is it removes your steering wheel itself, right? You have more space. What AI does, so you have Teslas. So Tesla has this very nice feature where an assisted driver, right? Assisted driving that you have, right? So all these things are there. So what they're making is the technology combined with engineering, combined with design. So they'll try to improve whatever design that you have in your car. So next, moving forward. So we have some basics of sketching, right? So whenever you want to sketch something, so we'll directly jump into live later. So what are the important things that you have? So whatever uh, important things that you have, right? If you want to sketch something, so first is your lines. So how to make sure that you have the ability to draw a straight line. And second is your arcs, because cars are filled with arcs and curves. And next is your basic simple shapes, right? Whatever you can see in the image, you have your circles, you have your ellipses, you have your basic shapes like triangles, you have your basic shapes like squares and rectangle. So all these things will give you a basic building block to develop your car. Next, moving forward. So elements of design. See, whenever we are drawing in 2D, so what happens is um, you have a very weird shape in your mind, right? You have very awesome idea, very great idea, but you don't know how to represent that shape, right? Even though you're very good in sketching, you might not be able to represent whatever you're thinking in your mind, because see, whatever you see, it might be in your 3D or 4 dimension too, right? But you don't know exact shape, how to represent it on a paper. So then comes element of design. So one of the elements of design is your shape and form. You have to understand what is shape and what is a form. So shape is nothing but your 2-dimensional object, right? So now I have one shape, so which is my circle. So circle is a 2-dimensional shape, but circle might have multiple forms in 3 dimension. So form is nothing but a 3-dimensional object that we have, right? Which will be represented on a 2D plane. So a circle. So let me take an example of circle once again. So what is the form of a circle? It might be a sphere. So keep that in your mind. The circle might be a sphere, or it might be a cylinder too. Correct? Cylinder, from its top end, it looks like a circle. But when it's rotated, it becomes a cylinder. So like that, you have your square, right? So when you want to represent a square in 3 dimension, you have a cube. But cube is not just the limitation, right? See, even your cylinder from side view looks like a square, right? So you have multiple, what I can say, iterations of your form from one single shape. Next, you have your triangle, right? So with proper shading, you can give you can make your triangle as a cone or a pyramid. Just add one simple curve and your entire triangle can be converted into a pyramid, right? Or a prism too. When you take a triangular prism, it will look like a square in one end and it will look like a triangle in another one end. So these are your forms. Got it? So form will include, the important thing is your shading, your shadows, your contours, your surface finish, all those things comes into picture. So that is one of the biggest element in your design. So you have to understand how to create this one. So next, that is the form that we discussed in the case of your sketching. But what about automotive forms? So what are the things that you use in automobiles? So that is important, right? So automotive shapes or forms aren't random. See, if you want to create a car, so basically imagine I'm a 5-year-old kid. How will I draw a car? I draw a car, just a box. I'll create 2 circles. I'll create another one box on the top like this. So whatever you can see in the screen, right? So that is basically my idea of a car. But it is still correct to this day, because just add some curves, add some neat lines, add some circles properly, then you'll get a very good design of the car, right? So whatever Mahindra Thar or Jeeps or Willys that we had in 1960s, so all these had this basic kind of a shape, right? So even the Land Rovers that we have, so if you just add some curves, if you add some neatness to this model, I think you'll become a very good automotive sketcher or a designer. So it's just adding some what I can say, essence. I like to call it essence or soul to your car. So this is the basic form of your car. So in forms, now the important thing is, whenever you are dealing with forms, so that is the basic form that you have. Next, moving into advanced level, you have something called as speed forms, right? So speed forms will improve the quality of the line. So whenever you're drawing something, so these will try to improve the quality of your line, that whatever you have, or curve, whatever you have, and it'll give you a platform to create a random idea, right? Which might be very good, which might be a supercar, which might be a boat, which might be a aeroplane, which might be some bike too, who knows, right? Just add some features to those things, and add some wings to here. So this first image that I have, which might look like a boat, but the second image that I have, so which might look like a boat or plane or a UFO, who knows. So this is the basic concept that you have in your mind, right? And giving engineering as an engineer, so I know that this part will not be manufactured, or it's very impossible to manufacture. Then what you do is think practically, and next you give, okay, this design might not be possible, so what I'll do is I'll try to simplify this result, right? So what I'll do is I'll try to simplify in such a way that it's not losing its character. And then by giving that character to this particular body, so what you're doing is you are creating your car step by step. So these are all called as your conceptual sketches. Now come to automobile body styles. So whatever forms that we learned, right, the basic forms, so they will include so important shapes. So shapes are very important here. So you have your rectangle, you have your square, you have your triangle, and your circle. So by just incorporating all of these things in an ordered manner, what you can do is you can create a very, very basic step uh, or the sketch of a car. So different body styles in automobiles. So before designing a car, what you have to have is you have to understand, okay, how cars look first. So you're in a company, the company asks you to, okay, design a hatchback for me. Then you should understand, okay, what is hatchback? What is the character of that hatchback? And according to those things, so there are some rules. Okay, if this is a hatchback, this should be your wheelbase size. So this should be your distance between the wheels, right? So that is your basic wheelbase. And in design, we have another one, wheelbase. What is the height of the car? So how to take the height? So there are proportions. So how to take the proportions to your car? So hatchback will have some different proportion. Next, you have your sedans. Those will have some different proportions. So basically, sedan will have a boot, and according to that boot, the length of the car will improve and the comfort of the car. You should think about that. You have your coupe, right? All the GT cars or the sports car that you have, so they will have a coupe design. Then they will only have 2 seats, right? Or only 2 doors. It might have 4 seats to inside, but most of the time those seats are not usable, but they'll have 2 doors. Then how will you make sure that, okay, you are designing those things, you are giving the proper proportions there? Next, you have convertible. Okay, your roof goes up or down. Then how do you make sure that even though the roof is not there, the car looks good? So that is the very huge task when you are designing a convertible. You have your MUV, so multi-utility vehicle, or SUV, sport utility vehicle. So their ground clearance is much more higher, and those cars are tall. Then how do you give them proportions properly? You have your pickup truck, right? So trucks are also now a growing market in India. You have Xenon in Tata, you have Isuzu D-Max, right? So I think Bolero. So Bolero is very old class, but still Bolero. You have open top Thar. So all these comes under pickup trucks. Then how will you design those things without ruining the look of the car? The wagons. So whatever wagons, Wagonar. So it's one of the car. So whatever wagons that we have, how to give them proportions properly. There comes some functionality. In the case of your designing your wagon, the inside room or the leg space or the head space that you're clearing, giving, so those should be visually pleasing aesthetically, and it should feel. So that's why wagon will have some different ideas for them. And minivan, so you have minivans, how to design them, so what are the considerations for them? So all these things you have to keep in your mind, and you have to sketch them accordingly. And whatever sketch that you're seeing here, right? So in this entire sketch, you won't see a loss in proportions. All the proportions are matching, and they are clearing whatever idea that you have in your mind. They will look good. All right. So then comes the views in automobile. So in different angle, how will you look at an automobile? So that comes under views. So you have the side view. So I think, so the first image that we have, right? First sketch that we have, that is a side view of a car. So from the side, how does the car look? So that is one of the important views that we have to design. So the first image and the last bottom image that we have, so those deal with the side view of the car. From side, how does my car looks good? And you have your front view. So I think just above that image that we have, right here, so we have something called as a front view. So from the front of the car, how does your car will look, right? So it will definitely, so whatever you're taking as a reference whenever you're designing, so that is obviously from the side view. But whenever you're designing a car, it should look good from the front, because that is the face or the fascia of your car. Then the rear view, because rear view will have this lot of engineering features with it. So you need to make sure that you are designing your car look good, better in all round ways. And in one single shot, how to make sure that you're looking into all the things. Then comes into the 3x4 picture. So whatever the biggest image that you have, right? So that includes the 3x4 view of a car, right? So here you can see some amount of front, some amount of side. So that is called as front 3x4 view. And there is another one thing, the first view that we saw, right? So that is your rear 3x4 view. So from those two things, so what you can do is you can, just have an understanding with the car, and you can design a car. I think there is one question, right? So what is isometric view? So isometric view is an engineering view, Akash. So it is not a sketching view. In sketching, we have something called as a perspective view. So instead of isometric view that we are taking, right, where we can see it in the side view, in the front view, and in the top view, or the side view, the rear view, and the top view, what we do is we'll look in. So all these three things are visual in isometric view, but in perspective view, we are taking perspective of a point, 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point perspective, and we can design with respect to that one. I think if you do some research, so you'll get to know about it. So that is with respect to 3/4 view. And now, so we'll move into the basic practice, right? So basic practice is nothing but, drawing basic lines. So I think I'll share my screen once again. So I think, guys, all of you can see my screen, right? The white screen. Can you reply me in the chat? Great. So this is one of the sketching software that we have, right? We have a lot of sketching softwares. So one of the softwares that we have is called as Autodesk SketchBook, where you can design or sketch something, right? Whenever you are designing it in a laptop or a computer, you might need to use a tablet. And according to that tablet, what you're doing is you're designing. So now, so if you have a pen and paper, so please make sure that you're bringing it out and you're also drawing with me, right? So first we'll do a basic sketching practice. Okay. So one interesting thing that we might have to, try. So we have to improve our lines. See, a lot of your lines. So whenever you're a beginner or a fresher, your lines will be like this, right? So it doesn't have that aesthetically pleasing look. It has one very fading. So we call it fading edge at one. We have one thick edge in one other side. And between this thing, you have variable contrast here. But so when you have a very sharp line, right? Whenever you're designing a car, you might have to have a very sharp line. So whatever I'm drawing, right? So it's very faint, but it's very straight, right? So the first thing that you have to have is your sharp lines. The lines that you are using, right? They have to be very sharp and straight. The line should be very straight as possible, right? So try to practice. So this one, how to draw a straight line. So what you need to do is you need to draw from your shoulders, not from your elbows. So you have, so imagine, I'll try to delete all these things. So imagine, so this is your hand, right? You have your pen here and you have your elbow and you have your shoulder. So what you guys normally do is you write with your wrist or you write with your elbow. What you do is you'll try to move your wrist, because whenever you want to create an alphabet, right, or a font, what you do is you just move your wrist, and that's very good. And it'll automatically, give you whatever shape that you are, because we are lazy. Moving forward, so if you want to create a bigger circles or some shapes, what you do is you use your elbow. So you use your elbow to create a simple shape like this, which is not perfect, but it's okay. Now, when you want to become a very good sketcher, what you need to do is you need to move your shoulders. You need to draw from us shoulders. A little bit effort. We have to be a little bit concerned in that way. But anyway, so you have to draw it from your shoulder. So what you need to do is you need to move your shoulders a lot. You need to rotate your shoulder. If you want to create a line, right? So instead of moving your elbow, which will try to turn this arm like this, instead of a wrist, it'll also turn your arm like this, but in a very short manner. What you do is you just move your shoulder, right? Move your shoulder from here to here, so that automatically you can get this straight line in whatever angle that you want, right? If I delete all these things, I can draw very straight lines, right? So this is the first element of your sketching. And the second is drawing circles. circles are very, very important, because whatever feature, whatever wheels, whatever thing that you're doing in a car or an automobile is circle, right? Normally my circle will also be something like this previously, right? Something like this. So this is not even a circle, it's a oval shape or an ellipse, right? So circle. So this point and this point and this point and this point. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So all of these points should be same, right? You should have a similar roundness, right? Okay, I think you can use Procreate too without any problem. So these are just tools, guys. You don't need to refer any one of them. You can use any of these things, right? So circles are very, very important. What you need to do is you need to move your shoulder in such a manner that you can create this circle like this. So I think you can see my cursor move, right? So what you need to do is you need to move your shoulder simultaneously. So you have to practice it a little bit, or practice is too much if I'm telling. And then you have to write a circle like this. So in one single shot, you might not get it. So number of times. So you have to do it again and again, again and again, again and again, so that you can get not exactly perfect, but you'll never get a perfect circle, but something which looks like a circle. So lot of practice you have to make, and you have to create some sketches which looks like circles. Okay. So I think Subhatra has one question. Sir, for line, we won't use shoulder or elbow to draw because it's a linear, not angular. So angle is also linear, Subhatra. See, you have only two things. One is a linear thing and one is a radial or a curved thing. That's it. There is no angle. When you give one another line with respect to one another linear line, and if you want to measure the curvature between them, then only you'll get this angle or angle function. So there is nothing called as linear versus angular or something, right? Every line that you create, right? So this line, this will follow the equation y is equal to mx plus c, which is the equation of linear curve. This line also, that angle or the tan theta will change. That's it. So I'm going too much with the engineering. Sorry for it, but yeah. So next, the third thing are curves, right? You have to create curves. So once again, from the shoulder itself, you need to create a curve. So like this. So whatever you're drawing with the car, right? So car will have basically a curve shape. So curves, curves, curves. You need to make sure that you are creating curves like this. So first you have a line, you have a circle, and then you have to have a curves. So curves, more curves, more curves, more curves with a lot of steep angle, inclined angle. This also curve. So this is also a curve which is closed. That's why it's called as a circle. This also a curve which is having a radius of infinity. That's why it's called as a line. And this is circle. Sorry, this is curve. Curve. So these three are the essential shapes whenever you are creating a car or a sketch. So basically, an automotive sketching, the first principle is your shapes and forms. And second principle is basically your lines, circles, and arcs. So all these things are very, very important and very, very essential whenever you are creating a sketch with something. So I think all of you understood this one. So try to practice it. Okay. Now next, move to this presentation once again. So now, so in this particular session, so what we'll try to do is we'll try to create a very simple sketch of a car by ourselves. So if you have a pen and paper, guys, please make sure that you're bringing it out, so that we'll create a very small sketch so that you can understand, okay, you can have a hands-on experience of how you can create a very basic sketch of a car. So it should not be that what I can say looking good factor, but when you practice with me, right, you'll get to know a lot of idea, right? So we'll have a very small step by step procedure or guide. So try to follow this one. Okay. Next, so if you want to draw a car, so what is the first step that you have, right? So we have to create a something called as a ground line. So whatever you see in this bottom, right, so which is called as a ground line, where basically my ground is, right? So according to that, you have to place your circles or your tires, and you have to set up your wheelbase. And according to that thing, what you need to do is you need to create a very basic or very simple car. Next is drawing the wheels, right? Wheels are very, very important. So wheels will have some, regulations between them. So the distance between two wheels or the wheelbase basically is 3 to 3 point times the wheel of the your drawing. So when we go to the sketching part, right, I'll show it how to give it. So basically, whenever you are drawing one wheel, so according to that, you have to go to wheel 1, 2, and 3. So that is the distance between your wheels. And according to that, in the final part, you have to create another one wheel, right? And next, so we are taking another one wheel so that we can have a line for our hood or my body line. So next, the proportions. So this is very, very important. So your car should have a very good proportion, right? So we have something called as a silhouette. Silhouette is nothing but the basic shape of the car or the outline of the car, right? The top, the roof, which will define the silhouette of the car, right? So important thing is draw lightly. So whatever you're drawing, so it should be very, very light. And according to that, you have to, define your lines properly, and then we'll detail it, right? So this is a basic silhouette of a car, right? It only gives you an idea of how the car looks or it might look. It won't give you a complete idea of, okay, this is my engineering features of the car. It won't give you anything with respect to that. But I'm now just giving or teasing, okay, how it might look. That's it. So now adding details and support. Now we are adding a lot of details, right? So details are nothing but your features on the car, how the side looks, how the top roof looks. Does it have a headlight, right? How the headlight looks. Does it have the wheel, how the wheel looks? So what is the features of the car? Where is my body line? Where is my side skirt? Where is my fender, right? Where is my roof, and how does my roof looks? Is it a GT car? Is it a, so where is my, is it a minivan? Is it my coupe? So a lot of these things, so you are giving in this particular project, right? So now basically you're defining the basic shape of your car. So this is how my car looks, right? That you're defining. So this is the next step that you need to do in your car. And all these lines should be very sharp, very neat, very aesthetically pleasing. And next, more details and support. You are giving even more details where you are adding very small, small things. So basically, like whatever mirror that I have, if the interiors are visible, if your glass is down, then you're giving your seats and your steering wheel, which is visible from the glass, and the back area. So if this is a coupe, you might have one extra row of seats. So you are including that one. So this is your feature line. So this is where your shadows will come in. So this is where your shape goes in and out, a complicated shape. You have your headlight. You might have indicators which are embedded inside of your headlight itself. You have your front grille, right? You have your windshield, you have your rear windshield, you have your headlights, sorry, rear tail lights, rear exhaust, and all these stuff. So all these minor details, right? So these details are given in the secondary detailing part. And when you give these kind of details, so most of the time the car's basic outline sketch is done. So this is the basic sketching that you do for a car. So next is shading. So whenever you have your car, you might have to shade something, right? You might have to give how light will interact in the car, right? Volume, depth, right? How the car looks in 3D. Okay. You have the bottom of the car, which interacts with basically the ground, then the ground will have shadow on top, sorry, on the bottom, right? So how to represent that shadow, right? And where your wheel is, the wheel might have some curvature which is associated with it with respect to it. Then how will you make sure that you're giving that curvature? So that will have in shading. So you're giving some shading here where light will bend, light will curve. So here, when you give shading, you can understand, okay, there is a very huge curvature which is associated in there. So if you have alloy wheels, you might have some disc brakes inside of it. You are giving some shadow to that disc brake. So in this area that you can see here, so down your side doors, there is an area of curvature, a ditch basically, where you have a lot of shading or shadows. You have a glass here. So how to make sure that you are representing this glass here itself, right? And the front area, okay, there is some interaction. So this was a curvature that I'm talking about near your wheels, right? Okay, so all these things you have to give or create in your particular sketch. So when you do this shading, so shading will normally be the final part. If you're not doing or going with respect to any colored model, I think this is one of the last step that you'll have in automotive sketching, right? And yeah, so perspective, sometimes we'll take it in the beginning itself, right? So with respect to something called as perspective lines, what we'll do is we'll design our car. So mostly for the side views, we'll not do that much of perspective. But when it comes to the 3x4 view for the front and for the rear, so we'll normally go with a perspective addition, right? So perspective addition is nothing but, so if you have something on the other side, then how will it looks, right? Your car will narrow down. So how does it look? So that is called as your perspective view. So according to that thing, what we do is we'll design our car. So, and these are the steps that you will follow, right? So first you'll create a ground line, and then you'll create your wheels, then you'll create a silhouette. Okay, sorry. And then you'll create a basic outline, and you'll give features, you'll give shading, and then you're giving your perspective additions so that your car looks good and nice. So this is your basic design, right? This is one introduction to your automotive sketching. And by using this introduction, what you can do is you can, build other views of the car too. So this is the basic step. This is the first step that you have in your car. So after this, you have a lot of steps, lot of things to learn. What is shading, how light and matter interaction. You have curvatures, you have perspective, we have continuities, we have what we can say is your background. So all these things will be there. But anyway, we'll just discuss till here. Okay. So now, so I'll stop sharing my screen. Guys, my question is, do you all have pen and paper? Can you type it in chat box? Yes, great. Okay, are you people trying it? Okay, great. So let me share my camera. So let me just draw with you guys. So what are the basic things that we might have to encounter, right? Uh, Guys, is my camera visible? Can you type it in the chat box? Yeah, great. So what we have is we have a lot of these sketching pencils that we have. So we have different shades, right? So normally whatever sketching pencils that you get, so this is this one. So this one is a 2B sketching pencil, right? So 2B is nothing but 2 bold, right? So this is the basic sketching pencil that we normally use. So along with those things, we have our 4B, 6B. So this is 6B, this is 8B, this is 10B. So these will have a different tip size. So whatever tip size that we have here, right? So all these tip size will vary accordingly. Got it? So normally whenever you are sketching some basic outlines, what we do is we'll use this 2B pencils. And now, so what I'll do is I'll try to create a ground line, right? So what I'll try to do is, so sketch with me guys. So if you want to, have a very good, I think, Instagram post, then sorry, LinkedIn post, then it might give you a very good reach. So what we do is we'll try to, create a ground line. I think it's very thin. Yes. So this is how you should sketch. Okay. Whatever you can see this line here, right? So it's very thin, but yeah. So this is how it will look. Let me check once. Yeah, I think it looks much more better. Yeah. So whatever line that you see here, right? So that is you're basically a ground line. And on top of this ground line, what you're doing is I'll expand my ground line even more. You're giving your wheels, right? So this is how you should create your circles. So this is one of my circles that I created, and this is another circle. So I'll keep 1, 2, and 3 circles of gap in between. And what I'm doing next is at the center point, so I'll create another one circle here. So I'll shade it later. So what I'll do is I'll create another one circle here. So I'm creating a circle with a gap of 3, 1, 2, and 3 in between. Right? I'll mark a center to the circles and I'll draw a line. Right? So this is how you are creating that perfect, line. And then we are defining a base to my circle. I'll try to define a base. Got it? So you all also try to define a base to this particular circle. So next, so this is how your circles will look, and this is how your base line will look. So this is 1, 2, 3, that representation for my gap. So next, what I'll do is I'll try to create a silhouette. So silhouette is nothing but my basic shape, right? What I'll try to do is I'll try to create a rectangle like this, a very simple one. I'll try to create a rectangle like this, and I'll create another one rectangle on top of it. Right? I'll try to draw a coupe, right? A sports car, because everybody likes to draw a sports car, right? I'll try to draw a sports car itself. So what I'll do is I'll try to give a very smooth curves like this. I'll try to give a very smooth curves, and here somewhere you have a fender, sorry, windshield, and the windshield line is very sharp, which will also integrate with your back like this, right? And you have a very sharp tail in the back, and I'll try to integrate here. So this part that we have here, and along with that, I'll try to blend these features as well. See, this is your rear bumper, as we engineers call it, right? And this is my front bumper, and this is the front fascia or the hood region. So where your engine will sit here, or it might sit in the back door, we don't know, right? And yeah, so you have this coupe line, and you have something called as a body line, which is going here. So whatever you see here, right? So the top line, so this is your side line, and this is your body line. So all these are major lines for you, right? According to this thing, what you do is you create your shape of the car. So next, what I'll do is, so I'll use different pencils, but what you can do is you can put a lot of more pressure on top of your lines, and you can create a very featured shape. So what you can do is you can define your shapes properly. So this is your basic detailing. So I have already created my silhouette, and what I'm doing is I'm creating my basic detailing for the car. I'm adding some features for my car, and I'll add some details for my roof as well, so that it looks very sharp, right? And I'll add some details in here bumper. I'll add something here so that it looks very nice and neat, right? I have my reflection on the ground, right? So this is basically shading. Whatever car that you have, right? You have some reflections to your car till this point, even though your ground is still here, or your ground is still here at some particular point. So what we are doing is we are, adding some reflections. So when the light comes from this point, so imagine you have your sun like this. When the light comes like this, so what happens is light comes on top of it. So you have your reflection like this. So this is my reflection light, right? So I'll add a pillar, A pillar mount, and I have my coupe style like this. Right, it looks much more nicer, much more neater. I'll have my body line, which is very sharp, and I'll give my tail light something like this. Right, I have given a tail light, which looks nice, and I have given a line for my bumper. And now I have the front. So I'll try to give a grill for my front, a small grill, like what we give in Mercedes or something. And I'll try to create a curve from this start to this start in one single shot. Right, so that they can blend easily. It looks like one single part. Right, this is called as your packaging. So one single part, it looks like the entire thing. So next you have this side line, which will give you a width, right, of the for your car. It looks much more muscular. And then what I'll do is I'll accentuate my wheels, right? So these are called as wheel arches. I'll try to create my wheels. I'll give some shadow to my wheels. Right, I'll try to give finish to my car, a better finish to my car, and I'll add wheels here. And then what I'll try to do is I'll try to add the fender wheel arches from here to here so that it looks neater. So you can have some wheel arch somewhere there. Right, this is one of the basic model that I'm doing, but you need to make sure that you are having a lot of perspective or angle in your mind. And then what I'll do is I can create a door somewhere here like this. So which is curved, because this is a curved surface. You might create a door which is curved like this. The door might have some panel gap, something. And you can give a door handle, and this door might have some feature like this. Right? Your door is much more advanced. It might have some feature like this. Right? So you might have some thickness here, curves. Right? You might have some shadow in the back. And you will have another wheel here. So this is called as your perspective addition, where I can give a perspective addition here, because there will be another wheel in the back. That's fine. And here also I can give another one wheel here, so that there is much more nicer wheel alignment. And what I'll do is I will give some shadow here. I'll give some shadow here. I'll give some shadows here too. So whatever wheel that we have, right? So wheel will also cast a shadow. So we'll try to cast a shadow here, and we'll try to cast a shadow here. All right, we have some very nice panel gaps here, nice feature lines, some shadows, some curves, some features. And I'll create a glass with some shading. So this is one of the basic models that we can create for a car. See, 5 minutes, that's it. So it's very easy, but yeah, apart from these things too, we have a lot of things to learn. So next what I'll do is I have one of the pencils, which is 10B pencil with a very bold lead, right? So we'll try to give a very better contrast to my car, right? What I'll try to do is I'll try to create a headlight, which is much more futuristic like this, which has some round headlight or something. I'll try to give a feature for grill. I'll try to create wheels properly. Right. So I have to create a wheel somewhere here like this. And then I'll accentuate this line that I have here. I'll finish it. I'll smoothen it out. I need to smoothen it out. Right. And even the ground line that we have, I'll try to smooth it out. And then all of these lines. We'll try to smoothen it. We'll try to give some shadows here. Right. We'll try to give some shadows here too. And we'll try to give some shadows here as well. And we'll try to give more depth here. right? And we'll try to hide.
Nuthan, you got muted.
Okay, so am I audible now, Mehul?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, from past how many times? Sorry, which long it happened?
No, just now,
Just now. Okay,
just.
okay, okay, great. So see guys, so this is how you should create a very good sketch of a car. See, so with the basics that you have learned, right? So this is the level of detail that you can create a car. And by using these principles that we have, so what we can do is you can go ahead, you can move forward, right? So we have, I think, one of the best content for these kind of creative work, right? So you can continue with this field where a lot of, along with these things, we have a lot of other things to talk about, right? Your classes are facing and all these stuff. And from here we can move forward and we can have this creative endeavor or the future that we can have. Got it? I think that's about it.